If you've been hurt in an accident, whether it was a car crash, a slip and fall, or something else, you might be asking yourself, do I have a case? Or even just, how does this work? Well, let's break it down in plain English. Hi, I'm New York City and Staten Island personal injury trial lawyer Brian O'Connor. Now let's talk about what a personal injury case is. How do you know if you have one, and what you should be thinking about if you've been injured. So a personal injury case is basically a legal claim where someone's hurt because someone else was careless. And now we're not talking about a freak accident. We're talking about situations where an injury could have and should have been prevented. So maybe someone was texting while driving, or a store didn't clean up a spill, or even a landlord who didn't fix a broken step. That's where personal injury law steps in. Now, here's where people don't always realize. Just because you were hurt, it doesn't automatically mean you have a case. In New York, like most states, you have to prove 4 key things for a negligence case to hold up. First, there has to be a duty of care. That means that someone else had a legal responsibility to act in a reasonable way. Drivers have a duty to pay attention, and businesses have a duty to keep their floors reasonably safe. Second, there has to be a breach of that duty. In other words, they didn't live up to that responsibility. Maybe they ran a red light or they ignored a safety rule. And third, you need causation. Their carelessness has to be directly tied to the reason why you got hurt. That's really important. Just because you were injured isn't enough. It has to be tied directly to what they did wrong. And last, damages. You have to show that you actually suffered losses. This could be medical bills, missing work, or pain and suffering. These are all considered damages. It's kind of like a table with 4 legs. If one leg's missing, the whole thing can fall apart. And that's why it's so important to hire a lawyer who understands how to build a strong case from the ground up. And building a case means evidence. And that's what we work with every day. We look at your medical bills, we track down witnesses, we get security footage if it's available. We talk to experts who can explain how the accident happened and how your injuries might affect your long-term health. The earlier we get started, the better. Some evidence disappears fast. Cameras can get erased, people forget details, and deadlines don't wait for anyone. Now let's talk about what you're actually trying to recover in a personal injury case like this. There are 2 main types of damages. First, economic damages. That's your medical expenses, lost wages, maybe future treatment and rehab, stuff that you can actually calculate. Then there's non-economic damages. This is always a little bit more tricky to quantify. This is pain and suffering, the anxiety that you're feeling, the things that you've missed out on because of the injury, vacations, hobbies, time with your family. Attorneys, insurance carriers, and even judges will look at similar past cases to help determine what a fair number is for these non-economic damages. Now, another important and still basic part of personal injury law is insurance, because in most cases we're not actually suing a person. We're negotiating with an insurance company who usually issues a policy either to a commercial property owner or a motor vehicle driver if it's an auto accident. But here's the thing, insurance companies are not in the business of handing out money. Their whole job is to settle for the lowest amount possible, and they have teams of people who do this all day long. I'm often asked how much a client's case is worth. And while the answer always depends on a number of factors, the most important factor is often how much is the insurance policy that covers the at-fault party. Because no matter how serious your injuries are, a lawyer is typically limited to the total amount of the at-fault party's insurance policy. Now, while property accidents like slip and falls usually have at least $300,000 in coverage, auto accident cases can sometimes be limited to the New York minimum policy of only $25,000. Of course, even with large enough policies, the insurance carriers only double down on their tactics to deny and delay serious injury cases. That's why having an experienced attorney on your side levels the playing field. We know their tactics, we know the system, and we know how to fight back when an offer isn't fair. So when should you call a lawyer? My advice is always to call an experienced injury lawyer as soon as you have questions. At O'Connor Injury Law, we answer your questions free of charge every time. We believe that knowledge is power, and the more you know about your options, the better your chances at a fair result. Even if you're not sure if you have a case, it's worth the conversation. The call is free, the advice is real, and you don't pay us anything unless we win for you. If this helped you get a clearer picture of how personal injury law works, please hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. And if you're dealing with an injury right now, give us a call and let's make sure you know your options.